the ordinary meeting of Council, Wednesday 23rd of March, open. I'd like to pay respect to the traditional owners and custodians of the land and acknowledge elders past, present and future. Apologies?
You.
Any disclosures of interest of reports that are before Council today?
No.
Nil. Anyone on the screen?
Neil Bob.
Okay, we'll move now to the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 23rd of February 2022. Mr General Manager, you got nothing there?
No, thank you, Mr Administrator.
I will resolve the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 23rd of February 2022 be received and confirmed. Move to the mayoral minute as it's titled under the Act. It's presented by the Administrator. Just want to mention that we were in Sydney at the Special Conference for Local Government New South Wales. We tried to arrange a number of meetings with ministers, but given the North Coast floods and budget estimates, they ended up being cancelled. We did get the opportunity to meet with Minister Tuckerman, the new Minister for Local Government, on the sideline. The General Manager and I had a very good discussion with her. I extended an invitation to visit Central Darling Shire Council before she makes any decision on the future of administration. She indicated that she would like to do that, and she would be consulting with the community on any actions she may take. She has received a draft report from the consultants for the Office of Local Government. Sorry, I'll go back. The Office of Local Government has received the draft report, yet to be presented to the Minister. So once she gets that, she will need to read that, then take it to Cabinet, and she indicated she would release or have discussions with the General Manager and myself on that before a round of community consultation. And we've been labouring the point that that's extremely important for the residents of the council area that occurs, and she indicated she would be happy that happens. Subsequent to that, we followed that up with a video conference last week, and again we covered the same territory and the same sorts of commitments. Final rounds of community consultation on the community strategic plan are occurring, or has occurred. The staff are starting to integrate some of the findings of that into our next budget, a delivery plan and operational plan. So last month, certainly a highlight that the loan for the garbage trucks are paid off, and we're moving forward to establish reserves for that money there. So make it very clear, Council's finances are fragile, and that we certainly need to be aware of that in everything we do. And certainly whilst there's good grant funding out there, it's tied grant funding in most cases, not unrestricted funding. And the Council last meeting agreed to lobby the federal government with ALGA, Australian Local Government Association, for an increase in the FAGS grants. That's untied, and it gives us flexibility for services in the area. During question time, we had an issue on roads, 2,400 kilometres, 95% unsealed. I looked at the map the other day, it was just a massive red of closed roads, and it's certainly an issue that we have at the forefront all the time. Have you got a report on flooding in there? Floodplain manager?
Yeah, no, there's not.
Okay, I just want to mention flood planning. There's been quite a lot of discussion concerning flooding, potential flooding at Menindee and how that was managed. We have a local emergency management committee, and we have the State Emergency Management and Rescue Act is the guiding light. That committee is there to plan and respond to disasters and emergencies. It does not get involved in operational levels. That's the combat agencies, and the SES is the combat agency. I think they did a very good job in the planning and response for that event. What is missing, and they have a flood sub plan to the emergency plan, which they rely on and guides their response. What is missing is a floodplain management plan, and that controls the development of floodplains and with mitigation measures on floodplain. The General Manager is moving to seek funding to enable that to happen. And that will occur once we get some funding and deal with it there. So I'll move now to item 8, financial reports, cash and investments as of February 2022. Mr. General.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. I ask the Finance Manager to speak to items 8.1, 8.2 and 8.3 in this session, please, on your call.
Thank you, Mr General Manager, and through you, Mr Administrator.
Kevin?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, through you, Mr Administrator. The cash and investments, at the end of February, we ended up with a balance of 5.794 million. There were 3 major receipts for that period, including our federal assistance grant of 884,000. That was for the 3rd quarter. As you know, we've paid off our garbage truck loan, which is good. Now that loan's paid off, I don't have too much to add.
Thank you. If there's no other comments from the General Manager, I will resolve that Council will receive and note the report. Item 8.2, Financial Performance Report, February 2022. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. Manager for Finance, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr General Manager, and through you, Mr Administrator. Again, it's a pretty much steady as we go report. There's not too much to report. There's no real variances to talk about just at the moment. And we've reported a smallish surplus of $10,000, but that still is favourable from where we thought we would be in our budget. The only other comment that I would make is that our RMS works are doing quite well for this period of time, and we've still got 3 months left in the year, so I would expect those to exceed the budget.
Thank you. So I will resolve that Council receive the report. Item 8.3, Council 2021-22, current grants register. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. I'd ask the Finance Manager once again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr General Manager, and through you, Mr Administrator. The report stands as it is. There's been no new grants received for the period of the report, and I have nothing further to add.
I'll resolve that we received and note the report. Item 8.4, Waste Management Reserve Funding. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. I'd ask the Finance Manager to talk to the report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr General Manager, and through you, Mr Administrator. As we've discussed, the loan for the garbage trucks has now been repaid. The main thing that was funding the payments of the garbage trucks was funds that were being raised through the annual charge for waste management. So we now have the opportunity to put those funds, which amount to $13,750 per month, into a reserve to fund ongoing waste management projects. If we were to do this, it would be estimated that we would be putting away $165,000 a year, which we could restrict to be solely spent on waste management, as it should, because it is being funded from the annual charge for waste management. We are well and truly into our budget deliberations now, and so if Council receive this report, I would propose that the waste reserve be created during this budget, and the mechanism for that is that we will show it as a reserve as part of the proprietorship, if you like, or rates funds on the balance sheet, so that it is entirely transparent.
Question, Mr General Manager. Do we hold any waste management reserves at the moment?
Through you, Mr Administrator, we don't have a reserve for waste management at the moment, but what we do have on our balance sheet is a provision for landfill rehabilitation, which is a legislative requirement. And off the top of my head, as at the 30th of June 2021, the balance of that provision was around 760,000.
Is that cash back?
Currently, that is not cash backed.
So why can't we, as of this month, start putting that 13,750 into a reserve?
Well, we should technically do it through the budget process. What will actually happen, the mechanism for that will be that $13,750 that would normally go into the payment of the garbage trucks will actually now sit in our internally restricted funds for waste management. We do restrict funds for waste management, which is made up of the annual charge, basically, less any expenses.
Okay, so the next budget period, we can transfer the current monies saved from loan payment into that reserve.
That's correct.
Thank you. I'll resolve that we receive the report.
Can I suggest, Mr Administrator, that other than have a second dot point that council establishes a reserve for 2022-23 financial year, and that it's on the establishment of that reserve that funds which are saved through the loan process is then put into that reserve, the opening balance, into the opening balance.
Okay, can you tidy that up for the minute taken, Mr General Manager, please?
Thank you. So as item point 1 is going to be receive the report, item dot point 2 will be that council establishes a waste reserve for the financial year of 2022-23. 3 would be that funds or money saved through the loan payment during the 21-22 financial year to be put into the new reserve fund for waste management.
So moved. Resolved, I should say. Okay, we move to item 9, governance reports, the model code of meeting practice. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. As you'll be aware that late last year, I think it was in December, the model code of meeting practices came to council for public expedition. We put it on display. We'd received no comment back as part of the model code of meeting practices. We've actually included now that anyone in the community can actually now attend the public forum electronically through video conferencing. There is a procedure around that, that they go onto the council's website and fill in a form, and they send the form back to council, preferably the day before, but I think it was 8:50 a.m. prior to the meeting. We will then send them a link to the meeting or to the public forum, and they can actually video conference into the meeting. That then gives people opportunity who aren't in Wilcannia to actually be a part of the public forum for council. So that's now been included into the model code of meeting practices.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Just for the public, each council must adopt a meeting practice and apply that code in the conduct of its meeting. So we're following that. Good news that we're moving to that improved communication, which was a commitment we said we would do. We've now put the capacity to do that in our chambers. So very happy to resolve that we received the report. Council resolves to adopt the code of meeting practice. And 3, a final copy of the code of meeting practice is displayed on council's website. Okay, 9.2, flood management for Menindee Lower Darling correspondence.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. Yes, we'd received some correspondence from the Menindee Lower Darling group regarding water activities down that end, especially around the recent flooding. What I'm going to suggest, Mr. Administrator, and we haven't mentioned it as yet, but the Administrator and myself will be in Sydney next Thursday. We have arranged meetings with Minister Anderson, who is the Water Minister. I suggest that we also take this correspondence from the Menindee Lower Darling group and also present it as part of our submission to the Minister.
Just on that, Wentworth Shire Council will accompany us?
Yes, that's correct. Wentworth Shire Council will be accompanying us with that meeting as well.
Thank you. I'll resolve that we receive and note the report, and 2, that the correspondence from the New South Wales South West Western Water Users Group be tabled to Minister Anderson at our meeting. 9.3, Human Resource Management Activities. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator, and I ask the Human Resource Officer to speak to her report, please.
Thank you, General Manager, and through the Administrator. The report speaks for itself. There's nothing additional to really add to the report as it stands.
I'm wondering, Mr. General Manager, it says work continue on the development implementation. Is there a program that we could table for the end game and the activities outlining?
Procedure one?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we could have that at the next meeting, please. And I will resolve that we receive the report. 2, that the works program for the development implementation of the human resource procedures to address legislative obligations be tabled at the April meeting. Corporate Services reports. 10.1, transfer of land to Aboriginal Housing Office.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. I ask the Acting Rates Officer, Darryl Telford, to speak to the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Through to you, Mr. Administrator. Only bit of information I might add to the report is, I guess, the need for additional housing within the Wilcannia community is become even more evident through the COVID crisis. This proposal really supports improving and adding to the limited housing stock that is available. Therefore, it's recommended that Council adopt the proposal to transfer the land to the Aboriginal Housing Office, no cost to Council.
Just a question. Once that transfer occurs, we'll get rates?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll just clarify. Once the property is transferred and developed, it will become rateable. The plan for the Aboriginal Housing Office is for 2 of the 3 parcels to be developed within the next 12 months. The report details the amount of rates and charges income that would be derived once those properties are developed.
Thank you. The question, why is it only when it's developed? Normally, you have vacant land rates. We don't have that.
The New South Wales Aboriginal Housing Office is a department of the New South Wales government. State government-owned land is exempt unless it is leased for private purposes or under the unless it's leased for housing, unless it's leased for private purposes.
Thank you. Clarification there for the public. Okay, I will resolve that Council receive the report to transfer Lot 1 DP 524832, known as 2325 Cleeton Street, Wilcannia, Lot 17, Section 13, DP 759091, known as 71 War Street, and Lot 4, DP 60317, known as 100 Hood Street, Wilcannia, to the Aboriginal Housing Office in consideration of $1. That Council's legal costs associated with the above land transfer be borne by the Aboriginal Housing Office. 4, authorise the General Manager to execute all necessary documents to facilitate the above land transfers. Do we need the seal?
I don't know, actually. Darryl, do we need the seal to be applied?
No, we do not need the seal to be applied once the council delegates to the general manager.
Okay, don't need it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So resolved. Item 11, Shire Services Reports, Employment Zones Amendment to Central Darling Local Environmental Plan. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator, and I'll ask the senior to talk.
Thank you, General Manager, Mr Administrator. This is the paper that we put up last month. Now the Department of Planning has provided the draft RU5 Village Zone amendment text and the E4 General Industrial Zone, which is where the RU5 Village Zone is proposed to replace the current B2 Local Centre Zone and R1 Residential Zone. In accordance with the state government's timeframe, Council will exhibit the changes to the Central Darling Local Environmental Plan 2012 in the month of April, which is in accordance with the state government's plan for the amendments across the board to the standard template LEP. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr General Manager, this follows the discussions in Sydney when we deferred the matter last month.
That's correct. Excuse me. That's correct, Mr Administrator. Excuse me again. The senior planner and myself did actually meet with the Department of Planning regarding the RU5 and how that does actually will that benefit Wilcannia, and also too there's no conflict with other towns and villages within the Shire. They have really ensured that the RU5 is the best way to go forward, other than using the other employment zones that they've been originally being suggested.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. I will resolve that Council receive the report, receive and note the information on the standard instrument local environmental plans, Order 2006, brackets SILEP order. 3, endorse the proposed amendments to the Central Darling Local Environmental Plan 2012 proposed by the Department of Environment and Planning, where the B2 Local Centre Zone and the R1 Residential Zone are replaced by the RU5 Village Zone. The current industrial zones be retained and retitled E4 General Industrial Zone. 4, note that the Department of Planning and Environment will exhibit in April 2022 the proposed amendments to the Standard Instrument Local Environmental Plan and the amendments to the Central Darling Local Environmental Plan 2012 on the New South Wales Planning Portal. Council will also exhibit the proposed amendments to the Central Darling Local Environmental Plan 2012 on its website. So resolved. 11.2, Ivanhoe Waste Collection. Mr General Manager, through you.
Thank you, Mr Administrator, and I ask the Director for Shire Services to talk to the report, please.
Through you, Mr Administrator, at the ordinary council meeting in December 2020, council resolved to consult with the Ivanhoe community about the possibility of reducing waste collection services from 2 days to 1 day per week to improve operational efficiencies for council's waste operations there. We've been through the public consultation period. No responses were received. This report aims to resolve to reduce collection services to 1 day. We've also identified a need. I've been working with Darryl on the collectible rates for waste in Ivanhoe. There's some discrepancies there, so council should complete a bin collection audit to ascertain how many bins are being collected from all properties, not just commercial properties. And the fourth point there aims to the right to the commercial properties, advising of the changes and giving them 3 months' notice so we can implement this change in the new financial year.
I'll resolve that Council receive the report to reduce the waste collection services in Ivanhoe to 1 day per week, effective from 1 July 2022. 3, complete a bin collection audit to ascertain how many bins are being collected from commercial properties and reconcile this with information within the existing commercial waste charges. 4, write to the commercial property owners advising of the change in service and offer free bins if deemed required. The other bin will be charged. So,
Sorry, Mr Administrator, one further point, which may be an issue for council after this change has been implemented. No consideration has been given by me, the author of the report, to any possibility of waste collection service charge reductions as a result of this reduction in service.
that'd be a matter of the budget coming up, Mr Engineer, if you can.
I'll leave that with finance.
Leave that with you.
Thank
Thank you. Yeah, that's what. 11.3, Regional Roads Report Program. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator, and I ask the Director for Shire Services to make commentary on his report, please.
The Regional Roads Repair Program fund are applicable to councils up to the maximum dollar budget of $400,000 per application. There's a project on the Pooncarie Road, which is deemed the highest priority on all our regional roads at the moment. The pavement's failed and it's estimated to be an $870,000 cost to reconstruct and seal 2.64 kilometres of that section of road. This section of road is separate to the 61 kilometres being funded at the moment, and this aims to consider allocation of $470,000 from our capital roads allocation in the draft budget coming up.
Subject to that, yeah. Okay. Question, Mr General Manager, does this address the ongoing issues with the bridge abutments and road pavement sinking?
Through Mr Administrator, the two bridges in question, the Tallywalker Bridge and the other bridge that I can't quite remember the name of, is included in this section.
So we will repair that issue with the road sinking.
The abutments on both bridges will be included in this reconstruction.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll resolve that council receive the report. Consider the allocation of $470,000 from the capital roads allocation in the draft 2022/23 budget to match the funding amount to enable works to be complete. That come from FAGS road component?
That will be from the Regional Road Block Grant.
Okay.
From Regional Roads.
Good, the matching grant.
From Regional Road Block Grant.
Okay, thank you. Unsealed road maintenance grading procedure. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator, and I ask the Director for Shire Services to speak to the report, please.
Through Mr Administrator, this report was provided following the February meeting where it was requested that information regarding our unsealed road maintenance grading procedures be presented to Council. The report outlines those procedures as well as the attachments.
Whilst we've got that there, what's the opportunity to improve what's required? And I think I know the answer.
In my mind, there is none. We, because of our vast road network, we don't have the capital funds to heavy maintenance grade all roads. The light maintenance grading that forms the majority part of our maintenance budget enables graders to move along at 4 to 5 kilometres per day, which enables us to maintenance grade full lengths of road, to reinstate crowns and roads and use scrapers to build up center lines for improved ride quality and we just don't have the money to be able to do that.
Next part of the question. Do we have major spots that cause these problems, or are they widespread across the network?
They're widespread across the network because all our roads were formed with natural formation. Some of our roads have been improved with importing gravel and extra fill to build up the vertical alignment to improve drainage. A lot of them have just been maintenance graded over the years, together with maintenance grading and wind erosion up to 25 millimetres a year. The level of the road has closures below the natural surface of the road, and in rain events or flood events, they become inundated, which means that the roads remain closed for longer periods. It's an issue. We aim to address that as part of our capital road. Doing that at the moment at Ivanhoe on the Tridor Road and the Tridor to Moola Road.
So it's a long-term I'm thinking I have to respond to the letter writer. It's a long-term program, additional.
We can't afford to do it under our maintenance budgets. So just for your information, the local roads component of the FAG is only spent on maintenance typically in each year. So that's about 1.6 million, sorry, 1.8 million. And that's used on maintenance to maintenance grade 1,600 kilometres of unsealed roads on our local roads. We use the roads to recovery funding to do the capital works on our local roads. Only in the event there's urgent works required on regional roads, that roads to recovery allocation is spent on regional roads. So the roads to recovery project this year, as I've said, is aimed at addressing some problematic areas in Ivanhoe. The year before, we've spent it on the Baden Park Road. We address unsealed local roads with that money to try and improve formation and address flood-prone areas to lessen the impact of road closures.
Okay, I think this report and the explanation just given by the engineer really highlights the issue we face with our unsealed roads. And as much as we would like to address those issues, it's financially impossible unless there's increased grants. And that's part of the reason why we supported the ALGA submission to government to increase FAGs and roads to recovery there. So that's the facts. If someone has an answer, we're happy to discuss it with them. Thank you. And I will resolve that we receive and note the report, and a letter be prepared back to the letter writer. Okay, water and sewer update. Thank you, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. And once again, I ask in this case, I'll ask the Director for Shire Services to respond to the report, please.
Through you, Mr. Administrator, I don't really have anything to add to the report. That's current up to date. I will just mention the 3 new water treatment plants. Membrane Systems Australia visited all 3 towns last week to finalise their layout designs and position of the water treatment plants. Glenda and Jeff, Council's Planning Department, have been working with me and them to finalise the DAs and our REFs, etc. So everything's in hand and they're due to start after Easter. Out Whitecliff first.
Question, Mr. General Manager, through you. Given the cost pressures being faced with diesel materials, do you envisage that we will have contract issues with the total budget?
Not with this project, but there's a report further in here that addresses that another issue.
Thank you. I'll resolve that we receive and note the report. We'll call item 11.6, services update. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Again, I'll ask for the Director for Shire Services to talk to the report, please.
Through you, Mr. Administrator, there's only one variance there. Parks and Gardens and Sporting Facilities budget has been exceeded as the report was written in March. We're 37,000 over expended with our Parks and Gardens expenditure. Bearing that in mind, the other operational works listed there, particularly for ancillary works, are well within budget, so the total budget won't be exceeded, but that particular operational budget has been exceeded. That's mainly due to us engaging Cultural Solutions to assist council with some of their operational works. It was unforeseen by me at the time when I prepared this budget last year.
We won't have another QBR before the year, do we?
Yeah, yes, we will have March.
Okay, so we can.
April.
with.
April, so we can do the adjustment at the April QBR, Mr Finance Manager. He's nodding.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I'll resolve that we receive and note the report, and two, that the over expenditure in the Parks and Garden sporting facilities be adjusted in the April QBR. Roads and aerodromes report 11.7. Mr
Thank you,
General
Mr
Manager.
Administrator, and I'll ask the Director for Shire Services to respond to the report, please.
Through you, Mr Administrator, there's nothing to add on the RMCC works, the state highway works. The regional roads, we have a $975,000 repair program, which was due to start in March. That's been delayed due to the wet weather and the heavy patching works we're doing for RMS. So that 3 kilometres of reconstruction and seal on the Ivanhoe Menindee Road will commence in 2 weeks' time. The local roads, we're tracking well to deliver all the roads recovery projects. The Wall Street works in Wilcannia commenced with the new curbing being commenced next week. The Trotter Road and the Miller-Trotter Road works are nearing completion. And that's about it.
Question, Mr General Manager. I note that we had natural disasters November, December and January of flood events. What impact will that have on additional works required and budget there?
Oh, yeah. So we treated the flood events as being funded by natural disaster, as all councils need to try and repair damage and get roads. So since the event in November, 2 grading crews have been working on the storm and flood affected areas. There's a number of roads that remain closed since that event and further events in December and January. We got declared natural disaster this week from that November event. It took some time, but now council can be confident outlaid, and the money that we will have to outlay will be reimbursed by the government to help us.
What's the value on
It's estimated 2.6 million.
That 2.6 million we've expended already.
So that was from this is a new natural disaster event from November last year. So the 2.6 million covers all our local and roadal.
And also the work to open the roads up as well.
That's right.
Yeah, so we've expended some of that 2.6 money.
Yep.
that initial works guaranteed funding, isn't it, as part of the response?
Yeah, it's called emergency works and immediate restoration works. So we had a flood event in March last year, which we completed all works by December last year. And I'm pretty sure the finance manager said we've been paid that. So we'd only just completed all that work and it rained again and damaged all the road works that we'd already done. So now we've got grading crews going out to repair all that work again.
And you got any idea?
Roads included in that bill?
Any idea of December, January sort of estimates in there, ballpark figure?
2.6 million was our application estimate, yep.
What about November, or does that cover the lot?
Oh, sorry, the March event. The March event was 1.3 million.
Now that was March 2021 or 22?
March 2021.
Yep.
1.3 million for the March event.
Yep.
And this event that we're working on now is the November event, 2021. It was estimated at 2.6 million.
And the December, January events, you got any idea?
They're all under the one event.
Oh, right, that 2.6 includes the three.
That includes.
So that declaration the other day was for the 3 events?
Well, whilst we have separate events, they just number events as different numbers. So didn't matter which one we're included in.
Yep.
It just matters that we're included.
Okay.
So it's not only that council can repair roads, but all property owners who had infrastructure damage or stock losses or anything like that are now eligible to apply for recompense from the government.
Just, through the Administrator, that excludes the recent flooding on the Darling River too. So like the works along Tilpa Road where there's damage, that'll be a separate event.
And I included all that in our one estimate.
So that's all included in that 2.6?
2.6 million. Yeah. When we complete the works, it might be 2.2 million, it might be 3.2 million. as long as we keep records and evidence of our work.
Or could he
That's
quite
all.
even exceed 2.6 without a?
Yep. Thank you. Again, for the roads issue that people are concerned about, not just our members of the public, but other people, obviously representations. We try to maximise recovery of any funding we can get for our roads. So it's an ongoing battle. So I will resolve for 11.7, receive and note the report. We now to P meetings, the Menindee Common finances. Mr General Manager or the Finance Manager?
Thank you, Mr Administrator. Look, we'll just take that as being read, please.
Okay, I will resolve that the information received from the Menindee Common in relation to their finances on the 5th of March 2022. Written notice. Noted. 12.2 White Cliffs Community Association, Section 355 Committee Meeting Minutes. Mr General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. Again, if we can take that as just being read.
That resolved that the minutes of the White Cliffs Community Association meeting held on the 17th of February 2022 be received and noted. We have, that's the conclusion of the matters in open council. The next item is confidential in mine, Mr General Manager, correct?
Thank you, and we'll just ask the gallery to please
leave, and I will move that the council closes the meeting to the general public and move into confidential